Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Chameleon live session. Thank you. I'm glad everyone made it for the new time. We were a little bit concerned that people would show up at 3 o'clock and wonder where everyone was. So thank you for all coming along. I'm going to be running today's session with the incredible Michael Philpott. So Michael is an expert in communication. Michael has been recently voted one of Christchurch's top coaches and New Zealand's #1 speaker coach. So for public speaking, presentations, all of those kinds of things. Michael, I'm probably never going to be able to introduce you and do you justice. So I'll let you, kind of say that in your own words shortly. But just thank you for everyone for coming along. Today, we are going to be trying to learn from Michael. What can we learn in L&D from someone that is an expert in communication? How can we upskill and apply that to our world? So whether that's managing stakeholders, whether it's pitching up, trying to get buy-in, trying to influence or persuade others, we're really here today to pick Michael's brain on some of those things and just learn what can we use in our world from someone that's an expert in speaking and communication. So Michael, I might just hand over to you, mate. You're probably going to introduce yourself a lot better than I could ever do justice. So do you want to tell us in your own words just a little bit about yourself, how your business runs? And I'm really keen to hear a little bit more about your new initiative, the art of epic communication.
Cool. Okay. Well, first and foremost, thanks everyone for taking the time out of your day, especially if you're tuning in from overseas at 7 o'clock. Well done. No doubt you're drinking. Background on me, like what do I do? How does it work? So essentially, Michael Philpott is the brand of a company that comes under Smart and Wise, and it's my wife and I created the business 10 years ago. What we do is we work in pitching, presenting, public speaking, and presenting to camera. So I work with the likes of CEOs, founders, who are looking to speak in conferences, generally either around New Zealand or around the world. And then I also work on investment pitching. So I work in the area between $5 to $15 million investment pitches, which usually range for around 7 to 10 minutes, where a person is put in a room with a bunch of strangers and asking for that kind of money within 7 to 10 minutes. The Art of Epic Communication is a workshop that we've put together recently as we came out of COVID in New Zealand, because obviously my work there weren't so many people looking for coaching for presenting on stages around the world when we had COVID. So everything went kind of slow. We created some online learning, but also we've just re-engaged and remade a workshop, which is intensive one-day workshop where people pitch and present to camera. So within 15 minutes of the workshop opening, for example, they have to present to camera, and that sets the tone for the day for how the whole rest of the day goes. For me with business, I'm just excited that we're back, doing stuff, getting into it, and it's feeling like we're starting to move forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And yeah, so if you're asking for $10 million in about 5 or 10 minutes, I imagine your communication has to be pretty effective, pretty concise, and pretty persuasive, right?
Yeah, 100%. So the majority of stuff there is, and I'll steal something from Mark Bowden here. So Mark Bowden is from Canada. He's an expert in the art. He's an expert in human behavior and body language. So he basically says that when you get up in front of any audience, they're going to, within a few seconds, they're going to decide whether you're a potential friend, a potential enemy, or a potential mate, and they're going to filter information that you say through those lenses, and then they're going to cherry pick information from you speaking or presenting to back up their confirmation bias on whether you're a friend or a potential enemy. So a lot of the time, the people I work with pitching, they're quite formal, they're quite rigid, they're quite nervous, and the audience goes, oh, potential enemy. And they might have the best idea in the world, but the audience has already gone, we don't know if we trust you or like you. So as that person's speaking, they're going, oh, there's another reason not to trust you. Oh, there's another reason. They might not exist. But the opposite is also true, that if that person is quite charismatic in the way that they show up, the audience goes, I like you, I trust you. And they will cherry pick information from the investment pitch to back up the reasons why they like and trust that person. So when it comes to Q&A, it's a really nice experience rather than an interrogation. So a huge amount of work that I do is around scripting and getting really concise around what they're saying. So my area of expertise there is kind of weird. Hear me out. I have ADHD. So I have a really short attention span, which means if you're not keeping me engaged with the way that you're presenting in a dynamic, kind of charismatic way, I'll switch off. The second superpower I have is I'm a non-subject matter expert in these people's field. So I'm often working with people who are doing second stage rocket propulsion. I have no idea what they're talking about. So my job is to be probably one of the few people that comes into their lives who goes, I don't get it. Can you simplify what you're saying? Because there might be, and there most likely will be people like me in the audience, and you don't want to leave them feeling like you're above them in the way that you communicate. So essentially, my job is to just really at its core is to help neurotypical people to communicate more effectively with more neurodiverse people like myself.
Thank you, Michael. I think there's so much there that we can translate into our world of L&D. I think in our world, so much of what we do in L&D is trying to influence stakeholders, trying to get buy-in for projects, trying to persuade people that our idea is going to work or that it is a beneficial idea. But a lot of us, like you said, don't have that background. We don't have experience or knowledge about public speaking or influencing or pitching or presenting and things like that. So if you were to summarize, I guess, just a couple of key points, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes you see when people are doing this, when they're pitching or presenting? What are the most common things that you see that you can address really quickly?
Nice. There are 5 from all of the work that I've been doing, whether it is any one of those, pitching, presenting, public speaking, people procrastinate, right? So if they've got a meeting coming up, if they've got a talk coming up, a conference, a pitch, they're going to put it off because 1, it might make them uncomfortable. 2, it's not now, it's not present right in front of them, right? And if it feels uncomfortable, we'll leave it till later on. If they procrastinate, they're not going to write a script. And I know there's back and forth talk about like, oh, but if I write a script, I'm going to sound scripted. You have to write a script to be able to just refine your thoughts down. So they procrastinate, they don't write scripts, they don't time their talks. I don't know how many people here have been at a conference or at a meeting or event, and it's like they go over their time and it destroys the whole event. If they do these first 3 things, they're going to have shitty slide decks, crap PowerPoints. And the reason is because of procrastination, they put all of their content on their slide deck because they didn't actually take the time to prepare, and they're going to start reading off it. Now, the problem there is that people read at around 400 words per minute, and most people speak at around 160, 150 words per minute. So they're already reading, and the speaker is getting left behind. The last one is they don't practice their delivery. Maybe they do all that front work, and it's good, but they don't practice actually delivering it and, having the gestures that go with what they're speaking about, really making a point, finding out the bits where they want to reinforce their message. Those are the 5 key mistakes. They procrastinate, they don't time their talks, they don't write a script, they don't time their talks, they have shit slide decks, and they don't practice their delivery. There you go.
Yeah, right. So if we were to take those 5 common mistakes, and is the advice that you give people pretty much to turn it on their head, to
100%.
practice, write a script?
Yeah. So for example, a time frame with me would be I need people to come in and see me at least 3 months out from their talk. And we will have a coaching session 1 day a week leading into their talk. And I want to leave them with about preferably 3 weeks before their talk so that they are fully 100% comfortable. They can switch out from it. They can maybe practice and tweak a few things. Unfortunately, though, that's not the way the world works. A lot of people will come to me probably 2 months out, in some cases 2 days out. And it's like depending on what we can do is based on the amount of preparation time we have. One of the things I do have to take into account is that not every talk, being that I'm the former speaker coach for TEDx, not every talk has to be a TEDx talk, right? There is different talks for different places and different amount of energy and effort put into the design and development of those talks. Some don't require as much, but it depends on the importance of that talk. And I think just every talk should be given the respect it needs for the audience it's being catered to as well. There's a rule which goes for an important talk, for every minute of delivery time, there is 1 hour of content creation. In other words, just writing your script. And then for every minute of delivery time, there is 45 minutes of practice. So, for example, plain and simple, a 10-minute talk will require 17 and a half hours of preparation. I think I said that right. Came out right.
Nice. Cool. Thank you, Michael. And I'm gonna, pivot to something slightly different here,
Yep.
but in our world of L&D, we often find it's almost something you said right at the beginning there about people identifying or interpreting messages differently. So sometimes in our world, it can be difficult to make sure that everyone's on the same page, or that everyone has interpreted a plan or a strategy in the same way. Some of the stuff I've heard you say in the past that I really, really love is some of the stuff around clarification, clarifying that we're on the same page before we move on. So my question to you is, how can we better clarify understanding with stakeholders?
So I'd probably exactly from the start there, right? Oftentimes, the people that we work with are subject matter experts. All of you are experts in what you do. The problem is that we just unconsciously believe that other people understand what we're talking about. So the first thing is we have to kind of refine down how we communicate in really simple terms to other people, and not just presume that they will fill the gaps. So that's the place to kind of start, right? Is keep it really simple. I mean, imagine that you're talking to a 7-year-old is a really good place to really put the information within. And if you struggle with that, like, so for example, I work with a lot of, like, let's say I work with professors or specialists, and they're like, well, I don't want to talk down to my audience too much. And it's like, that's cool. You can give the high level version, and then you can use the phrase, which is, in other words, and then give a low level one as well. So you give the high and the low, so it respects their way of taking information, but it also keeps you an authority on what you're talking about, but it simplifies. When it comes to communication, we're always looking for checking for understanding first and foremost through body language and behavior, right? So when we're delivering our messaging, just being really consciously aware of what that person is doing. If they're anything like me, they've got good frown lines, and maybe Zoom or Teams gets rid of some of these. But you can tell pretty quickly and easily when I don't get something, right? Because my face will change. Before that, though, we have to have rapport. Any form of communication that we're going to do, we have to have the rapport to be able to go, to be able to communicate in a way that is really comfortable and more conversational with people. When we get into the fundamentals, though, we've got things like, if we give an example, for example, we can give clarification or paraphrase. So let's say that someone says something to me, and I'm like, okay, let me just check my understanding here. And we do this in coaching a lot if we're doing like performance coaching. Let's say I said to someone, how's your week been? And they were like, my week has been fantastic. I've had an amazing da-da-da. And they give me a long list of stuff. Now, what I want to do is I might be taking notes on what's going on, and then I might just want to check for understanding and just go, okay, so what you've said is da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Is that right? And they're going to go, yeah, that's right. You got it. It helps build rapport, and it helps clarify understanding. Is basically just paraphrasing back to the person what they've said to check for clarification. But as I said, the key is rapport. If you don't have rapport with the people that you're working with, essentially, if you haven't established and focused on building liking, trust, and respect before you try and do anything else, you're always going to be hitting that brick wall with communication of any form.
I can definitely see a lot of that in our world. I'm just applying what you said there to my own personal experience. And I'm thinking about projects where I've maybe worked on it where, some of the stakeholders maybe, I don't want to call anyone out here, but maybe work in like finance or IT. And, I don't want to stereotype, but people in that world tend to be a little bit more direct with their communication, quite analytical. They're really looking for the insight, or they want to see what the thing is, probably don't need as much fluff. So do you think there's an element there of catering your communication style to different people as well?
Yes, to a degree, right? So now we're getting into matching, mirroring, pacing, and leading.
Okay.
So uh, imagine this, right? You get an email, and the email is 3 sentences long. Do you give a 20 sentences email response? No. That person requires short, punchy amounts of information. They're probably going to be short on time. They glance over stuff. If you give them too much information, they're not going to actually take in any of it because you've given them too much. In the reverse, if you get a big chunky email, then they're going to want something. They want depth in return. So it's just about matching people where they're at. But at the same time, we also need to keep a little bit of ourselves in there as well. You know, it's a give and take with the communication. But if we're working with them, our key thing really is to, I mean, if I put it on my communication when I'm consulting with people, my key thing is to be quiet. You know, to really be quiet, just to watch, to listen, to take in the whole picture, to get good notes, and then just let them exhaust themselves with their speaking. Rather than kind of, you know, it's sometimes we get a bit nervy and we might want to jump in and kind of start talking quite quickly before we get a really full, deep understanding of them and their needs.
Mm, mm. Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. And I just want to go back to some of the stuff around clarification. This is something that I had to learn when I was consulting, was just that, very similar to what you said there. So, okay, this is what I'm hearing. Am I correct or am I wrong? And I almost, when I first started doing that, I almost was hesitant to do it because I was scared of looking like the idiot in the room. But I think it was
Yeah.
Simon Sinek said, like, sometimes you have to be the idiot in the room, because if everyone in that room is trying not to lose face, then there could be a bunch of people in that room that also don't understand. So it can be beneficial to be the idiot in the room, to put your hand up to. So yeah, totally love what you're saying there. What is there any, like, just cheat sheet kind of questions we can ask, like, from your experience, to clarify that understanding?
Well, you got me with that one. Cheat sheet
Yes.
questions would be, so let's get out of cheat sheet questions, right? So uh, but before we go there, I'll just reaffirm what you just said before, which is for people who are in this industry, in our industry, we're all in a creative industry, right? We give a lot, and we kind of gauge our value on our results personally. And if it doesn't go well, we are, we are not good people type of thing, or we are failures. There's a thing out there, and it's called I can't remember, it's self-assertive rights and responsibilities. One of the key ones in there that I had to really come to terms with when I'm dealing with the higher level of people, the shorter and the smaller amounts of information I get. One of the key values in there is the right to ask for more information. And I think in our industries, that is a really important thing. Is when I remember dealing with the CEO who I would sit down and he would be like, okay, so I want this, and this, and this. All good? And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I didn't have enough information. But at that time, it was like, well, he's short for time. I don't want to hold him up. I don't want to seem stupid. I don't, I'll try and fill the gaps. Huge mistake. We have the right to ask for more information whenever it comes to that type of stuff. And it's crucial that we do, because we run the risk of, like, I don't want to look like an idiot. We don't get enough information. We go away, do something, come back, and we look like an idiot. And the way to solve that is to just really, really get clarification, ask lots of questions.
Mm, mm.
Um, is there a cheat sheet to asking good questions? Yes, there is. It's called genuine, authentic curiosity on a person, what they want, their outcomes they want, what is their motive, what is their drive, what are their needs. With that genuine, authentic curiosity, the questions are there. It's kind of like, I often think of coaching like a car ride with one of your good mates in a car on an 8-hour trip, but your damn stereo's broken and you've got to talk for 8 hours. you know? And it's like, it's just this conversation of back and forth. You're like, so what have you been up to? And, and it's like, they're just questions. They're genuine, authentic questions that get to the heart of the matter of a subject.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you, Michael. So I tried to trip you up there and you handled it beautifully. Cool. So one of the cool things that I've seen in some of the stuff you do on your LinkedIn and your videos and all that and some of the conversations we've had in the past is this notion of persuasion.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about persuasion and what that looks like.
Okay, cool. So persuasion is it's a really cool term. So we've got persuasion, which is in the moment, right? Everything that we're doing in the moment. But then we've got persuasion, which is everything we can do before we have encounters or engagements. And I mean, all of us are in our jobs. And oftentimes we don't think that we're selling stuff, but we are. We're all selling something. We're selling an idea. We're selling a concept. We're selling ourselves. So persuasion is where, what are the things that we can do in advance that help us to best get the outcome that we're looking for? So if we take me, for example, my persuasion would be the way that I have my website set up. That is persuasion. People, before they encounter me, what do I want them to know, think, and feel about me before the interaction? That is helping to build liking, trust, and respect. That is all persuasion. So for that comes down to the clothes that I choose to wear, the way that I choose to speak, how I engage, how much I smile, how much of myself I share. Now, because of what I do, I help people tell stories, right? And a lot of those stories are going to be quite deep and meaningful, which means that my persuasion is that I need to be a little bit of that myself, so that people feel comfortable to come to me because they know that that's the type of person I am. Persuasion would be making sure that you pre-plan going into events, everything you can do in advance. What are the things that you find trip you up? What can I do in advance of any type of interaction that can help prevent that? Maybe it's having music. Maybe it's drinking Coca-Cola and smoking cigarettes. Whatever it is for you that puts you in a good state to get the best outcome you're looking for. Because what we don't want to do is go into things not prepared.
Gotcha, as well. So it's not just about persuading how you can present yourself to persuade others. It's almost like persuading, putting yourself in the right mindset so that you can be your best self and put your best foot forward.
100%. So we call it, in NLP, we call it state behavior results, right? So at any given time, we can be in a state, a mental state, and if the state is either productive for us and gets us the results we want, or it doesn't. And the great thing about states is they can be changed in an instant. They can be, oftentimes they'll be changed through a physiological change, like how we move our body will change how our brain is wired and thinks. So if we get stuck in a negative thing, we'll change the physiology, move around a bit, jump around. But if we're going into maybe we're having the first client interaction with someone, what is the state that I want to be in? If I'm nervous about it, maybe I think about things that have gone really well for me in the past, that put me in a mental state of like, I'm really good at this. I'm really successful. I get really good outcomes for people. I'm here to help people. I have a really curious mindset. I'm going into this and I want to know all of this stuff. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's a really good state to go in, as opposed to, I'm a little bit nervous about this. I really don't know what they want. I've been talking to some of the team and they've all said bad things about, this client. And so you're pre-framing on yourself to go into this thing negatively. You want to be able to persuade yourself to be able to go into it in the most beneficial manner you can.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, totally. I can definitely see how if you're pitching for $10 million or if we're pitching to a stakeholder for a new L&D project, I can definitely see how those same two things would apply. Here's one for you. This one might be a bit tricky. I don't know, but often in our world, people come to us with requests, right? People from the business come to us saying, "Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, can you create this resource? Can you do this thing?" Something that I know a lot of people in our industry struggle with is saying no, or pushing back or offering an alternative solution. So you mentioned earlier, we have the right to ask for more information. I believe as consultants, really, we also have the right to tell someone if they think their idea is better done a different way. So any thoughts or experience there on how you can approach those kinds of conversations or communicate that more effectively?
Yes. So again, I mean, rapport, right? You've got to have rapport. Without rapport, you can't do anything else. The level of rapport you have indicates the level of your ability to just plainly communicate back to people the reality of situations. And again, it just comes down to explanation. Pre-framing is our powerful weapon that we have. You know, like if we pre-frame why we're doing something, why we're pushing back, you know, what are the outcomes of this, and what is the of our pushback and their request, you know, giving them enough information for them to be able to make good decisions. But oftentimes when we're in a state of stress and anxiety already, we don't respond in the most beneficial way for us to be able to do that, right? We're like, oh, and we get agitated and we get a little bit short, and that person goes, you're just hard to work with and you don't get what we're saying. And it's like, it all just comes back to rapport and that level of communication, and then pre-framing, this is why, you know, and doing it in a way that is gentle and approachable, but maintains trust in the relationship.
Mm.
You've got to have it.
It's interesting. Again, I see an overlap there. In our world of L&D, when we're designing something, we often say start with the why. So
Yeah.
we say to the learners, like if it's a leadership program or anything like that, you know, start with the why. But sometimes I can see ourselves being guilty of forgetting that own thing as well. Start with the why, like you said, pre-frame the context before
Yeah.
having that kind of conversation. So yeah, totally can see that as well. Cool. I've got just a couple more questions for you, but I've been asking a lot of questions. Is there any questions from anyone on the call today? Anyone that's attending today? Anyone want to ask Michael anything, bit of advice around communication or anything tricky you might be dealing with at the minute that you'd like to ask? Nikki, you normally hit me up for good questions around this kind of stuff. I'm looking at you.
Any questions whatsoever? Whatever you want.
I have to find my mute button there. I could say it's stuck on mute. I guess one of the things that sort of resonated for me is around the that right to ask for more information, and I think I've sort of been in my role in within the new to the business for, like to say 6 months, but it's probably been a little bit more than that now. And there's areas that I think where you get a little bit higher in the status, or you're going further up the exec chain, as to where you kind of get stuck in that place of I can ask certain levels questions, and then I get to that higher level, and at what point do you kind of go, I should just accept what I'm being told and work with it. And I think that's where I find some of the challenges around that right to ask for more information, and or the battle I have around it. So yeah, I don't know whether or not there's any advice how you, I guess it's that managing up with it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And for me, it's always, how do we ask questions, right? So we're just getting into basics around comms. It's like, what's your tone, your pitch? What is your position you're in when you go to ask those questions? What is the position the person you're asking questions of? What position are they in right now? Are they calm, cool, collective, or are they rushed and busy? You know, because we see the environment a person's in and we go, oh, maybe now's not a good time. And maybe it's not, but we need to come back on it. If we want to be effective at what we do need to have all the information to be able to go away and do our job effectively. But it really does come down to, you know, our tone, our pitch, our state, you know, am I in the right state for this? And Should I do this in front of people, or is this an off to the side conversation? If I ask these questions in the wrong setting, does it sound like I'm actually attacking their credibility and their authority and that type of stuff? So being aware of those and how and when you're going to ask those questions most definitely plays a big part in it. But I think at no stage should we ever stop asking questions. I mean, one of my key things is I have to be able to ask questions of the people that I'm working with at whatever level they're at. And the response I generally get is, "Oh, I thought I'm sorry, I honestly thought I'd made it simple." And I'm like, no, I still don't get it. And they're like, "Okay, cool, I'll keep working on it." I'm like, good. You know, but a lot of it is environmental. What is the what is the environment, and is it conducive to me asking those questions right now? Yeah.
And I think the lack of rapport when you get somebody that much more removed, you're not as much opportunity to establish rapport as you would say with direct leaders and team.
Yeah. And rapport is crucial. Like, really, that have to work on the rapport. And I mean, it's that thing, right? We'll jump a little bit into pitching up. So, because I know it is a big subject that taking these ideas, oftentimes, and this is no different to a $5 million pitch. What does everyone do before they work with me on a pitch? They stand up and they go, "So we've done this. We're amazing. We're going to change the world. We're going to do this, and we need your money." And I come along and go, "Yeah, but how does that relate to them? Like, what has it got to do with them?" And it's like, what is the problem that they are emotionally connected to that you're solving? Because if you can't get that problem to connect with them emotionally, they don't care. It's not their problem. And it's the same when we're, like, if we're going to ask a question, it's like, or take things up the chain a little bit, it's like, instead, are we complaining, or are we helping them to identify a problem that's going to directly affect them if it's not solved? And this is why we need to do this, so we can solve that problem for them in the long run. So in other words, are we speaking in terms of the needs of the other person or in the needs of ourselves? You'll
That's
find
helpful. That's helpful. Thank you.
Helpful? Good. Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Michael. We've got a couple of questions in the chat here. I'm just going to throw at you, Michael. So this one's from Steve over at Learn Awesome. Steve is wanting to know what your thoughts are on practice and frequency of speaking to stay in speaking shape, to kind of, I guess, keep up that skill set is what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great question. So I just gave a talk last night. I did it for free, on stage, which is unusual for me, because I advocate for paid speaking, right, as a speaker coach. I did it because my need to be on stage in front of an audience was starting to kind of like, oh, I definitely need that feeling again. My trainer, he used to say to me, so my trainer was Dr. Rich Allen, and he used to say to me about 3 weeks was his time frame where he started to notice he just wasn't as sharp when he got on stage. 3 weeks, which is a pretty short period of time, right? For me, because of what I do, I'm kind of saying the similar message quite repetitively in different kind of ways. So they are mini stages, and I do other events and stuff as well. But I think that 3-week mark of putting yourself out there somewhere. Now, the cool thing being is, like, what we're doing right here, this is presenting, this is putting yourself out there. Making videos for work, for your marketing, that is challenging you to refine your thoughts and condense it and make it congruent and concise. When we do a facilitated workshop, again, it's just challenging us to keep that information really at the forefront of our brain so that we just keep it nice and condensed for people.
I actually had a similar experience with that recently, Michael. I can, if I'm in a meeting with someone, I can talk for an hour straight. But our team asked me to record a couple of videos a little while ago, and it took me all day to record a 4-minute video. because I just couldn't stop rambling. I couldn't get it down. I couldn't stop with the little filler words. Like it's actually really challenging to do if having never done it before. Got another question from Nicole over at Unison. So, do you think there's good apps out there? She mentions one's called, I don't know how to pronounce that, Nicole. Is it Ori?
Possibly. I think so.
Okay. do you think there's any good apps out there for communication and practicing speaking and things like that? Nicole's saying that she has a tendency to freeze or panic or forget what she's saying during speaking or a presentation. What are your thoughts on any apps or tech out there that you can use to practice with as well?
Yeah, tech's kind of hard, right? I'd be more getting to the kind of like core of the freezing issue. The problem with an app, and maybe I rewind this a little bit. I'm sponsored by Vodafone. It's across the road. The first floor is totally empty, and there's an event space there that caters to 350 people. I take my clients from developing their script and their PowerPoints, and then once we're into the delivery stage, I throw them up in that room of a big empty space. I put a camera on them, and I do everything in my power to make them super uncomfortable. It's mean, I know, but I do that because I need to see when the squeeze is on, what comes out. And the problem is with an app, you're not going to get the squeeze. You're not going to get that discomfort. I think if you were wanting to do something that gave you discomfort, you'd probably be better off to actually film yourself on camera on your own phone, because that is the creepiest, weirdest feeling ever. And what it will do is it will make you go, oh, I didn't realize that I did that. Now, I say this from very much personal experience, right? I've gone from 20 odd years standing in front of people, and my videographer friend and I went, you know what we're going to do? Let's do a video for a year, a video a week for a year. And I went, this would be sweet as, because I'm comfortable speaking. Put a camera in front of me, and I was like, and it felt really weird and awkward. But what it did is it made me go, what is awkward? What is strange? And I have to say, the more time I've spent in front of a camera, a stationary camera, the better it's actually made me as a presenter. And I couldn't tell you specifically what it is, but I think that will get you faster, better results. The apps that are out there are good, but they just simulate an environment, and they gauge your ums and ahs and stuff like that. But if you really want to get some quick results, jump on camera. And the cool thing being is other people don't need to see it, right? It's like you get to just do it yourself, progress through it, do it repetitively, find real subjects that you want to speak on that make you a little bit nervous, and then figure out, like, what is it that makes me feel this way? What am I doing? That'll get you quick results.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I suppose it's practicing in a safe space, isn't it? Having the psychological safety to practice on your own and then view it back and critique yourself. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Sorry, I'm just going to run into the next question, if that's all right. Got one from Tammy. Tammy, I can totally see how this would be challenging in your environment, especially in a billable environment. So where everyone you speak to is very, very time poor because all of their time is billed to a client. So Tammy, I know this is quite a big subject, Michael, so we'll try and touch on it just in a couple of minutes, if that is even possible. Can you touch on open-ended questions versus closed? Sometimes working with senior stakeholders, I find myself asking more closed questions or putting words into their mouths to demonstrate knowledge, rather than asking open-ended questions and being comfortable with the pauses and the silence. I think that's a great question, Tammy. Thank you.
I think you've answered the question. In simplicity, you've kind of answered the question, right? So we have open-ended questions when we want to open up, and we have closed-ended questions when we want to shut stuff down. And each has their place. If you're going for time and for speed, then you just want to close stuff down and just ask closed-ended questions. When we want to get information, it all has to be open-ended questions. And the area that you said was around the pausing. Pausing is great. The person who's pausing has the power, right? So what we want to do is, I think pausing, the area of pause that gives us trouble is what are we doing during the pause? That's actually the area. So if you're asking someone, we'll go into IQs. That might be helpful, right? So I'm asking a person a question and they will be staring at me as I'm staring at you right now. Now, when I ask them a question, so how was your weekend? If they do this, yeah, it was good. I'm going to go, no, really, how was your weekend? And they're going to go, fine. Yeah, it was pretty good. Right? So what I'm doing is during the pause, I'm watching where they're going in their brain to search for the information to answer my questions. That actually gives me something active to do. The other part being is because I'm genuinely, authentically interested and curious, the response I give is encouraging because I want to encourage them to keep answering questions. But watching their expressions is what helps me deal with the pause. And it'll really help you a lot as well. But let's say you were coaching a person, right? Oftentimes people will be a bit rigid and closed off. Or if you're putting forward an idea, I'm going to be watching their eyes. If they haven't taken a moment to shift their eyes around their brain to consider, it means that they are not considering what I've said. They're just popping back an answer straight away. So I might actually just repeat the thing and go, no, really. Take a moment and have a think about it. And have a think about it, have a think about it. Where you'll be looking is up over here when you think about it. You know what I mean? It's like people who can be quite, lazy when it comes to stuff or a little bit resistant. And their eyes will give a lot of that away. But open questions are perfect for getting the outcomes you want.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. I was just about to wrap up there, but we've just had one last question come in from Ruben from Ports of Auckland. So we'll try and do that one really quickly if possible. And I know, Michael, you are big into this stuff, so it should be really easy for you to answer. How important do you find quality of video production for presenting video and learning? For example, a cell phone and a lapel pin versus traditional recording equipment with professional lighting, etc. There's in our world, there's a much lower barrier for cell phone recordings. Everyone's got one, but you do have to compromise on quality a little bit. Where do you sit on that spectrum in terms of video production?
Depends on the purpose of the video. So mine's kind of tricky, right? Being the job that I do, there are certain times when it needs to look like this. And then there are other times I just went, I'm just going to say this, I just went diving in poor nights. And we want to share that, we want to share that experience to show the personal side of ourselves to our professional platform, because that's all part of persuasion, pre-framing, and building rapport with an audience to show that there's more to me. If we took along a camera studio, a camera crew, it'd be like, you're a bit of a dick. So what I need is there's that kind of video, which is perfect for that. And then there'll be my marketing videos. They show off what I want other people to go, I want to be like that. That's the level I want. And it's like, great, you can have that level if you work with us. So each video style has its place. I have an online learning platform. On that platform, the videos are recorded in here, and they're recorded actually on stage at theaters and stuff like that. It was done through this quality because I wanted them to be really high quality. I have friends who have recorded at home on their camera, and they've done a full learning suite using a phone. And it depends, right? Like sometimes it's price point based. Other times it's just, this is who I am. The information is really important, how it comes across. The key thing that across all of those is it's audio quality that's most important.
Really?
Yeah. So we don't mind a bit of a grainy video or a bit scratchy or a bit movement, but if the audio is bad, we're like, yeah, okay, I'm done.
That's interesting. And there's so much cost, like economically costing equipment you can get now, right? You can get the light stands for a phone for $50. You can get the Bluetooth lapel mics quite cheap and stuff like that. So I see you've got one on there actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a Rode wireless mic. They're like $300, and a lapel takes it from being incredible to being utterly amazing. The lapel cord on it is $150. So $450, you've got incredible audio that can be jacked into your 4K phone, and you can be making, you know, a ring light stand. The ones that I have, they're on sale at the moment. I can get them for like $90 something. A ring light stand, your 4K phone. Most phones are 4K now, and a $450 for your audio. You're putting out some pretty good quality, better than most, for all your social stuff. But if you want to go above that, then you've got a studio like the one I'm in that you can come into, which does. I'll finish that off too. So when it comes to really important stuff, so I've had a couple of clients who have had to give a conference, like they've done a keynote to a conference online. And I've said to them, don't risk having doing it live. Come into the studio. We'll give you a teleprompter. We'll make sure you're awesome when you deliver it, but let's pre-record it and send it to the conference, and you're going to dial in for Q&A. And the reason being is if your internet cuts out or is a bit shaky during your presentation, it's going to directly affect your impact on the audience. Yeah. If your internet plays up a little bit during the Q&A, it's not such a big deal. And it can be the same, like persuasion. If I've got a really important meeting that I want to talk, where I want to be really, in persuading, then I would come in here and have that meeting. Because it's like, look at this. It's just, you just can't get this kind of quality. And it has a big impact on the people you're talking with.
That's brilliant. Michael, from everyone here today, from Chameleon, from everyone attending, thank you so much for your time. I know there's been a lot of people taking notes. For the people on webcams, I've seen a lot of notes being taken. So I'm hoping that that's been really, really valuable for everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Do you want to just tell us, where's the best place to find you, Michael? Where do we find you? Where do we find your online courses? Where do we learn more about you and what you offer?
Cool, too easy. And first and foremost, thanks everyone for coming along. I hope you have, taken something from this. I know it's a short period of time, and I try and talk fast to get as much done as I can. If you want to get in touch with me, my platform that I really am active on is LinkedIn, and connect with me on LinkedIn just under Michael Philpott, New Zealand's #1 speaker coach. If you want to have a look at some of the work I'm doing, everything, like, we're really transparent with our work, our pricing, all of that stuff. It's all online under Michael Philpott. Just look that up and you'll find us online. The key things there are pitch coaching, speaker coaching, and the workshops. Every piece of information you'll need is there, downloadable brochures, all of that type of stuff. And there's actually a free resource page on there where I've done videos, lots of video stuff. It's all educational stuff directed at helping you get to where you want to be without cost.
Michael, once again, thank you so much. When we send out the recording to this for everyone, we'll make sure to include some of those links to the website and to some of those resources as well. So one more time, thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate it. Hopefully that's been helpful, everyone. Just remember, these sessions are now fortnightly, not weekly, and as you all know, at 1 o'clock moving forward. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And once again, thank you so much, Mr. Michael.
Thanks, everyone. See you.